Welcome back to Garden Studio. I'm Tessa Pinner, a designer and gardener in upstate South Carolina, Zone 8A. In today's video, I am going to take you along for phase 1 of a new project that we've started. After Hurricane Helene came through last fall, we were left with a good bit of garden damage. Several large trees came down, and in one area of the garden specifically, right near our entertaining pavilion, we had what felt like a huge hole in the sky, in the ground, and it gave us an opportunity to rethink the design of the space. And that is always fun to have an excuse to do. So in today's video, I will show you what we're thinking in plan view on paper, and then take you through the phases of construction we've done in this spot so far. One major benefit to this new development really pushed us to expand our planting space and get rid of an area of grass that frankly was not really utilized, not doing any good, wasn't diverse, wasn't beautiful, wasn't even very nice grass. We're really excited to redeem that space and turn it into something much more beautiful, vibrant, interesting, and better for the flow of the garden.
For some of you, it may be hard to visualize things in plan view. That's what we're looking at here. Basically as if we were a plane flying overhead. And my goal with this view is to give you kind of a picture of what the area was before and what it is going to become now. And here, where this dark dot is where we had a very large pecan ball. So if you can kind of imagine, I'm not going to ink it in, but I will show you kind of with my pencil. It was probably no joke, at least that much canopy area in the backyard. But this was kind of just open and not very utilized, again, because the tree anchored it and we weren't pushed to really do anything. So fast forward to after the hurricane. And here is where we're going with the space. It all started with the idea to recreate some of the feeling of enclosure. I talk a lot about enclosure, whether that is boundaries, so sort of horizontal enclosure with hedges and fences and feeling of defining space, or even vertical enclosure. Like here, that would be in the form of tree canopy, again, that we lost, that we're trying to make this area feel cozy again. So what we have here is a pair of cherry trees, extending this bed out, extending this out. So the main changes are the trees here, making this feel like more of a hug in this area around the pavilion and the fire pit, and a lot more planting area here. Once we had made a plan on paper that we were happy with, it was time to start getting to work. And the first step of that was to actually draw the new bed lines. We used a combination of flags and landscape paint to get a good curve that we were happy with on each side before Brian started laying the pavers in a trench. The second step while he was doing that was for me to get the trees planted. Because we were very focused on the symmetry of the trees, we drew a string between them and tried to make sure they were equidistant from the middle of the fire pit. The third step was to prototype our path layout. This stone that we're using is leftover bluestone from the pavilion floor that we did last year. And we just wanted to see, do we have enough to do what we're hoping to do here? And the answer was just barely. Literally, we used every stone that we had, even the cracked ones. Step 4 was definitely the least fun and the most tedious, and that was sod removal. This was a mixture of Bermuda and zoysia and weeds, and had it been a little bit bigger space, we probably would have rented a sod cutter. It was kind of at the limit of what you would want to do by hand. Step 5 was to replace some of the lost soil volume due to those grass roots. We actually had a great solution to this, that we didn't have to go out and purchase topsoil because we had some large mounds of disturbed soil and tree stump grindings from the 2 trees that had fallen. I would definitely not recommend putting large pieces of raw tree chippings on a new garden bed if you're going to plant it up right away. However, because we have a few months before much will be happening in here, and because it was done almost to the level of dust, I'm not too worried about large pieces pulling nitrogen out of the soil. So this really is acting almost like a topsoil mulch combination. And again, it was something we already had, so we decided to use it. Step 7 is to lay out the stone path in its final location. We knew it was going to work because we'd already done that prototype. Now we just had to get the stones in their final place so that they could be individually set and leveled. One idea on getting a stone path for perhaps a little bit less of a cost is to go to a local stone yard or a landscape contractor, if you happen to know one, and say, hey, do you have any discarded stones that just weren't quite perfect enough for a client project? And would you be willing to sell those at a discounted rate? That's essentially what we did here for the stone floor of the pavilion. I happen to like an irregular look. I think it lends a sense of age, and honestly, nothing about our house or our garden is very perfect, so it fits right in, and it's a fraction of the cost to do it that way. Last year when we did the pavilion floor, that's how we sourced this stone, and it was a really great budget-friendly option in a way to get a high-quality material just at a lower cost. The stone could be set into sand, but because we have such a fine base that we've just graded, we're just putting the stones right into the dirt, and Brian is individually setting and leveling each one. So we'll see how that goes. We've had good results with that in the past. If an area is going to get really heavy traffic, vehicle traffic, anything heavier than a person's feet, I would not do it this way. But because this is a lightly traveled path, we've opted for stones right into the dirt.
Because this project was spurred as a response to the hurricane damage, we really didn't plan long-term for it. We didn't budget any money for it. And so we're trying to use and reuse as many materials as we can. These are all seeds that I already had, and I am getting ready to sow them over top of the prepared ground. Seeding, again, is the first wave of getting something to cover that dirt. I don't want to just mulch it all. I really do want to have some interest from the first season. And there's almost no easier way to do that than with seeds. So I will do seedlings in the spring, but right now all of these varieties can be direct sown.
At this point, the whole family has been walking all over this soil surface. So the next step is to basically just tickle the top layer with the earth rake to get it ready for some seeds. So there isn't any part of it that's too compacted and solid where the seeds won't be able to get purchase. Step 11 is to plant out some perennial seedlings that I've had ready since the fall. Once we had decided on this garden bed expansion, I knew this is exactly where they needed to go. With a very busy fall season, being quite sick in early pregnancy, I let quite a few of them die. It was a survival of the fittest in these couple of trays. So the ones that I have left that did make it through all of that are getting a place out in this garden bed. And then finally, sowing those packets of seeds out just to see, will I get anything, basically for no effort. You spend a few dollars, but if they don't come up, that's really all you've lost. You have no additional material cost, you have no additional real time invested. And so it doesn't hurt to just do a wave of direct sowing to see if maybe you can get the low-hanging fruit that way. If this comes up, I'll have poppies and snapdragons and foxgloves for next year. This is kind of a joke, step 13, but we never get to just plant anything and leave it, as every gardener knows. So probably the hardest task in front of me for this bed will be keeping it weeded until the ground is covered and keeping my children from stomping all through it. So those two things might be a little bit of a challenge, but until spring, it will look much like this. I will definitely circle back with a video probably early summer that shows the progression of the space. I will start annuals from seed in February and put a bunch of those out. Maybe beg some gardeners I know for some pass-along plants, dig up some irises from other parts of my garden. Really, whatever I can scrounge to put in here, I will. And hopefully, by the middle of summer, this space will feel a lot closer to what's in my head, really lush and beautiful and blooming. Overall, this was a fun little winter project, and it gives us something to look forward to next spring and summer in this space, when really it was pretty devastating last fall to have the huge tree in this area fall. We're not trying to replace what we lost, because with a large tree, you simply can't do that in any kind of timely fashion. But instead, we're creating something different here that will bring us a lot of joy and beauty to come.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you all have fun things you're looking forward to this year, projects in the works, projects even just in your head that you're dreaming up. I would love for you to write those in the comments if you want to share what it is that you are all working on in your own gardens. Have a great week and happy gardening.